Hello and welcome back to coverage here at U.S. Nationals. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Reed Duke, and it is time for the finals. Both of these players will have, they will have breathed a bit of a sigh of relief, I would say, at getting on to the World Magic Cup team. They really kind of reached that peak here, and they know that, they get to play with you, Reed, coming up here in a couple months' time. But there is yet a task to do here before both of them. One of these players is going to be the U.S. national champion and win $5,000. The other one, not the U.S. national champion, but look at $3K. Not bad.
Yeah, well, we certainly cannot say that the pressure is off. At least both of these players know that they're going to be going home with something great. So it's not going to be a failure of a weekend for whichever player loses here, although you can bet that they're both trying their hardest to win. A little bit of a bad start for Gerry Thompson. Looks like he went down to 5 cards, missed his second land drop, and now he has found a couple lands, but this is exactly where the blue-black deck wants to be, with Search for Azcanta in play and a clean board.
All right. Bristling Hydra, no sir, says Oliver Tomajko, and this one's starting to slowly slip away here from Gerry. Needs to keep adding threats to the board, and he's got another one. Oh, but another counter here from Tomajko.
Yeah, so if Oliver can find a 6th land off his Search for Azcanta, that turns on his 2 Gear Hulk, so he can continue just countering whatever Gerry plays.
He doesn't have it.
Ooh, he scried a Censor to the top with the logic of, maybe Gerry will play a 3rd Bristling Hydra, maybe he will play a 5th land in a Glorybringer.
Oh, wow. Punished there by... He actually cycled away that Censor because Gerry decided to play, and he hit a land there.
It might wind up being as costly as possible. Well, maybe not. The Search for Azcanta transforming does provide a 6th mana source all on its own. But he did cycle into a Evolving Wilds, effectively a tapped land that he couldn't play last turn.
But we talked about this earlier in the weekend, Reed. We should revisit it here. The subtle power bump of transforming an enchantment into a land that taps for mana this turn.
Yeah, it's huge. Getting to 6 mana ahead of schedule for blue-black control can easily determine a game. Those Gear Hulks, the normal reason why you would be hesitant about playing 3-4 copies of a card like that is just you draw 2 and you can't actually cast them until you've been able to draw and play out 6 lands. But Search for Azcanta, if you get that 6th land 1 turn ahead of schedule, or in this case, Oliver was struggling to find lands off the top of his library, and the Search for Azcanta bailed him out. It's a huge benefit. That's not really so obvious when you first read the card.
That's right. You really tend to focus on that activated ability of Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. But as we know, these control decks are very mana hungry. They'll take as much as they can get, and getting a free one in there is real nice. In the meantime, Torrential Gearhulk takes a bite out of Gerry Thompson here, knocks him down to 15. And we've somehow got a race on our hands here, though. Oliver's well positioned to win it as he has another copy of Torrential Gearhulk in hand. He's not going to cast it this turn, though. He's just going to activate Search, or Azcanta as it sits. Yeah, I don't know how Gerry's getting out of this now. He just revealed another Disallow. In the meantime, Oliver immediately goes to combat. Gerry's down to 10. Gerry continues to attack with both of his creatures, knocking Oliver down to 14, but Oliver says, yeah, man, sure, have a servant. Doesn't bother me. He's going to activate Azcanta the Sunken Ruin once again, and he's going to find himself an Essence Scatter. Now his hand is Essence Scatter, plus he's got a Torrential Gearhulk in there still, and a Disallow, plus the other cards he had before that. Ugh. This one's getting out of hand quickly, isn't it?
The grip is tightening.
Indeed. Yeah, it looks like game 1 is going to go to Oliver Tomajko in a few turns here, most likely, though. Let's see if there's a miracle in store here for Gerry. But Gerry's down to 5. Doesn't make a Thopter there. Just going to play another Search of the Conduit. Wouldn't be surprised to see Oliver just counter this one. He's got counters to spare, and this does represent not only the servant, but also another Thopter.
Oliver has an embarrassment of riches. He can pretty much do anything he wants with any of the cards in his hand, and it will lead to a pretty secure victory.
He's going to take a slightly different route here. He's going to let the conduit, the servant, resolve after this is over. But instead, he's going to strand that energy effectively by just killing the Whirler Virtuoso with Essence Extraction. But this does kind of force the issue here on Oliver to use a disallow here to protect a Gear Hulk, though he doesn't have to.
So the reason Gerry's doing this in response is if the Harness Lightning gets countered, he wants to be able to use the energy to make a Thopter with Whirler Virtuoso, but he can't make the Thopter first because then Harness Lightning would be unable to kill Torrential Gear Hulk. Still Gerry's turn here. He gets in for one. Wow, a third Gear Hulk for Oliver.
Yeah, these are some big draws here for Oliver Tomajko. And now he's put Gerry into chump lock mode. And again, this one just looks like it's about locked up here for Oliver. And that was a counter spell to finish things off. Oliver Tomajko wins a relatively quick game one here over Gerry Thompson. And is one step away from being national champion. Players are going to consult lists as well as sideboards.
Why don't we do the same?
And why don't we do that too, Reed? What do you make of the sideboard situation that our players find themselves in? Are things going to improve for Gerry? He's got 2 games to win back-to-back if he's going to knock off Oliver here.
Things are most definitely going to improve for Gerry. The cards that really catch my eye are 2 copies of Lifecrafter's Bestiary. That's a card that Gerry was sort of alone in bringing on his Temur sideboard. Many of the other Temur players that we had on camera over the course of the weekend did not have access to that, but that's excellent against blue-black control, as Oliver Tomajko cannot remove it from the board once it gets there. In addition to that, 3 Spell Pierce, 2 Supreme Will. Those are the slam dunk cards, and then he can also consider Appetite for the Unnatural, Death, or Death Gorge Scavenger. On Oliver's side, no obvious cards that he definitely is going to bring in, but the tools that he has at his disposal include Gifted Aetherborn, Duress, Jace's Defeat, Essence Extraction, and Negate. I think he likely will bring in Jace's Defeat, since he can use that to counter one of Gerry's counter spells, or more likely a Rogue Refiner or Whirler Virtuoso.
There's a lot of good targets there.
Yeah, Jace's Defeat, really, really nice techie card from Oliver. I like that it's a countermeasure against what you're expecting the Temur player to bring in, but also just an additional way to counter those really problematic creatures. He might also bring in some number of Gifted Aetherborns if he wants additional ways to beat Resolved Bristling Hydras. And then Duress and Negate are just depending on how much he wants to fight Gerry on the permission battle axis versus how much he wants to just focus on creatures.
Chat wants to know if you're going to join your teammates and wear a hat.
Maybe if I get a bad haircut.
All right. We could probably arrange that.
No.
Which kind of hat would you wear? Oliver style or Gerry style? Or maybe like a bowler or something. Top hat?
Like one of those Uncle Sam top hats?
Yeah, big tall one.
Yeah.
Conquistador helmet? Well, we're kind of looking for more United States centric. Hence the top hat.
Gerry did his best with 5 cards in game 1, but having both a bad start and being so far down on resources against what's already a pretty tough matchup in game 1, he was not able to put up the fight he wanted or needed. But after sideboard, things get a lot more even. And this sideboarded game with Gerry on the play is going to be the one where he has his largest advantage.
Wow. I'm not going to lie, Reed. The hat suggestions are coming in fast and furious here in the chat. Some pretty good ones, too. Cowboy hat?
It's very American.
I could see it. An American flag trucker's cap.
Okay.
Hard to get more American than that. Somebody just said you should wear a bandana.
Okay.
But I don't know. I was thinking hats. All right, guys, let's get all shuffled up. We're done talking about hats here. Wow. Gerry really has his hands full, though. This is a tall order.
Yeah, he's got to win the final 2 games of the tournament, or he's gonna wind up in second place. These 2 players really dominated the tournament. Gerry being our second seed coming in, one of only 2 players to never take a second loss. And best of my knowledge, Gerry has not lost in Standard yet. He took his 1 loss in Booster Draft. Oliver was our last undefeated player at 9-0 before finishing at 10-2 with excellent tiebreakers.
Good start here for Gerry. He's got an untapped Botanical Sanctum here to play an Attune with Ether. And when it comes to 1-drops for this Temur Engergy deck, that's about as good as they get. He's got all 3 colors here on turn 2 and 2 energy in the bank already. So he'd love to see a threat, but no, he's just going to pass the turn back. And Oliver can breathe a sigh of relief there. There was no Long Tusk Cub, because now the shields are up, as they say. He can start using Essence Scatters to contain the board here. And Oliver does just that. He draws himself a Fatal Push, which looked pretty good. It would have been nice in his opener, I think, but it turns out no targets for it as of yet. Though maybe he can leverage that Field of Ruin. Another Attune, and I think that Gerry's just verbalizing his intent here.
Looks like he's going to search for an
island. Yeah, and then...
So one cool thing about this turn is Gerry actually does have a 4th land in hand, but he had the option, therefore, to play around Censor by casting Whirler Virtuoso first, but he elected not to do that because Oliver used Essence Scatter the previous turn when he could have used a Censor if he had had one. So Gerry thought, let me not inconvenience myself and cost myself extra energy to play around a card that Oliver probably doesn't have.
Very smart, and a subtle interaction that is easily overlooked. Another cool interaction there, I mentioned this a minute ago, but the Field of Ruin play there from Oliver.
Yep, turning on Revolt for Fatal Push and not putting the control player behind on mana. In fact, actually finding Oliver his second source of black mana, which could be important going down the road.
There's 4 mana now for Tomajko, and this is a big turn. This is usually where you're tempted to not do anything if you're sitting across from a control player, but it's probably wrong against the player playing Glimmer of Genius. And Gerry does have the option here to just go bang, Glorybringer.
Okay, Death Gorge Scavenger. That did come in off Gerry's sideboard. Mostly just to have extra creatures, but can also have some relevant impact against Search for Azcanta, preventing that from transforming too early.
Oliver let it resolve. That means that Essence Scatter is going to get gobbled up by the Scavenger. One Thopter is going to hit,
limiting the options of Torrential Gearhulk.
But here's Oliver with Vraska's Contempt to take down the Scavenger. Correct myself there from earlier. It looks like it's Hieroglyphic Illumination, not Glimmer of Genius.
That Oliver picked up?
That would have been the fear there from Gerry from just passing the turn and saying, I'm not going to let you counter my spell. Because Oliver's not playing Glimmers, he's playing Hieroglyphic Illuminations instead. Thanks for the assist there, chat.
Gerry really presenting a lot of threats here.
Yes.
It's a double spell turn. Rogue Refiner certainly one of the cards the Temur player wants to see most in this matchup. Usually demands a removal spell after the fact and just a very clean 2-for-1 in a matchup where total number of resources matters a lot.
Second copy of Vraska's Contempt here for Tomajko. That is going to prompt Gerry, though, to make one last Thopter.
Yeah, look at Gerry just laying on, making as many creatures as quickly as he can. Oliver with no board sweepers in his deck. He's going to have to fight through these fair and square.
And there's that Glorybringer. Finally, Oliver is going to counter it, though, with Disallow. And Oliver really falling far behind here now, thanks to the land drops. He's still on 4. Gerry's on 7 lands now. And he's going to cycle a Censor, trying to find lands. He missed again? He's going to have to settle for Search for Azcanta to try to help him find lands next turn, but in the meantime, he's going to take a whooping here. 6 damage, knocking Oliver down to 10. And he's kind of fallen woefully behind here, hasn't he?
Yeah, Oliver with a couple missed land drops and Gerry just doing a great job casting threats that represent multiple creatures or multiple cards. He's just put himself further ahead on pretty much every axis here. Oliver has to worry about his life total. He has to worry about his land drops. And he has to find some way to clean up the board.
Well, one Fatal Push to kill a Thopter. Not really what Oliver wants, but it is certainly what he needs to do at this point. He's going to get rid of a Gearhulk. Another terrible draw for him there. The good news is that Azcanta the Sunken Ruin becomes a land, and he finds one off the top, too. That unlocks a Torrential Gearhulk that's already in his hand. Also has a Scarab God available here, too.
So we mentioned it last game, the importance of Azcanta actually providing an extra mana the turn that it comes into play. Or the turn that it transforms, I should say.
Gerry has a Lifecrafter's Bestiary in hand. Oh, but look at that. Supreme Will from Thompson means that Oliver's going to fall down to 2. Gerry completely out of gas, passes the turn back. Is Gifted Aetherborn enough?
It helps. So Oliver has 2 answer cards that can
Did he not have enough black mana?
He didn't have enough black mana.
Yeah, he wanted to play the Gifted Aetherborn to shore up the ground. against the two Rogue Refiners. And then he did have a Vraska's Contempt that could actually get him to enough life total after killing one of the Thopters. But no, he would have needed 4 black mana sources and apparently didn't have enough. He scooped them up pretty quick. And that means we get a game 3. Now, this is really interesting. The two dynamics from these two players, so different, right? If you look at Gerry's, he has been around forever. He has done everything in Magic, right? I mean, now he's really done it all, including winning the Pro Tour. But, you know, he was a grinder for a long time. He wrote articles for a long time. He worked at Wizards of the Coast designing the game. He's done everything. But ever since he's come back, it's just been like he's been smashing, right? I mean, that's when he won his Pro Tour. Now he's on the verge of potentially becoming a national champion. He is the type of player that put in his dues, right? He was the one who was there. He put in the hard work. He took his beats. He networked. He did some maturing, you know, when he was a young guy into adulthood. And now he's really seen the benefits of all of that. It's all come together for Gerry here in his career. Other side of the table, this is Oliver Tomajko looking to make a name, right? He's on the opposite end of that spectrum. He's not the one who, you know, has put in all the time. Now, to be fair, Oliver's been playing for a long time. He's not like a newcomer to the game or whatever.
certainly not.
But at the same time, you know, this is his one of the chances to say, look, I can play at the big kid table here, right? If he wins nationals, it's like, I'm the national champion. Like, that's a big deal.
Yep.
This could be his breakout performance that sets his pro career rolling hard, you know?
Yeah. He's probably good and sick of us calling him an up-and-coming player. He's probably thinking, I want to be just a player who's there. I want to have come up already. And he's not far from that.
By the way, I can also tell you that if he were to win, he would be the youngest U.S. national champion ever. He would undercut, that's right, Matt Lindy.
Matt Lindy, wow.
By just 6 months. They were both 17, so if Oliver wins, they would both be 17 years old as of winning, but Oliver would be younger.
How old would that make Oliver on the day that Matt Lindy won his national championship?
Well, we can run the numbers, but Lindy won in the summer of '98.
So Oliver wasn't around.
He wasn't even around. Oliver was about -3 years old when Lindy won, which is weird. But it also shows, you know, the breadth of our game at this point.
Yeah, certainly.
That we're one game away potentially from having a national champion who wasn't even born.
Oliver playing with
national champion one.
With Duress, which is a card that potentially is about as old as he is.
Yeah, that's true.
Older, certainly.
I mean, you've been playing since you were a little kid, too.
I've been playing since I was 5 years old.
I mean, that is absurd. Like, did you know how to play Magic or read first?
Well, they were one and the same for me.
Really?
I mostly learned to read by trying to figure out what my cards did.
Really?
That's true.
You know Dana?
Yeah, of course.
You know, she knew how to play before she could read. She just memorized the picture on the card, and she was able to, you know, verbally be told what the card did.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unreal to me.
I knew my DCI number before I knew my Social Security number.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had it memorized.
Oh, man, that is cool. All right, well, a good start here for Tomajko. He has, on the play, a Search for Azcanta to kick things off. And Gerry with a little bit slower of a start. No 2-drop from him here. And he's going to spend turn 2 just casting a tune with Ether. Not really what he wants to do.
So it makes me wonder if he had the Attune on turn 1, he could have potentially been missing either the Forest or the Attune itself. Or if he was going out of his way to represent Spell Pierce by playing that turn 1 Spire Bluff Canal.
Well, if he was, it certainly didn't work on Oliver because he just ran out Search for Azcanta.
And I like that decision on Oliver's part. Search for Azcanta certainly a card that goes up in value the earlier you cast it, and Spell Pierce, just a card that's going to be high value at essentially any point in the game. We'll call it any point in the first 8 turns of the game. Spell Pierce is going to be a high value card. So there's no reason to really fear that exchange and outthink yourself.
This is interesting. Let's see if Oliver can find an answer here for the Deathgorge Scavenger. It actually does pretty good work here if it gets to survive. Oh, how about a Censor?
I love that play from Oliver. He cycled first, both providing himself the information of what he's going to draw off the cycling and also denying Gerry the information. Gerry might think potentially Oliver drew the Censor off the cycle, but really Oliver had it all along. He was just doing proper, clean sequencing there. Oliver also legitimately thought pretty hard about whether he wanted to cycle that Censor because he doesn't want to leave himself too vulnerable to Bristling Hydra, one of the real killers of the blue-black control deck. But he did in the end decide to just get rid of the Deathgorge Scavenger with Censor.
Well, the writing's on the wall for this Rogue Refiner, isn't it?
Yeah, this trick that we've seen Oliver do a couple of times now with using Field of Ruin to enable Revolt.
Going to push that Rogue Refiner right off the edge of the cliff. And Tomajko sitting right where he wants to be with no creatures on board for Thompson. Tomajko working his way up here with this search for his Kanta. This would be his 6th card. And there's number 7.
So he binned a pretty good card there, really showing that he values the ability to transform it sooner rather than later. Oh, and he's rewarded by drawing Torrential Gearhulk.
Wow, things really going well for Tomajko here. Potentially on his way to becoming the national champion for United States this year. These players have already locked up their seats in the World Magic Cup with Reed here sitting next to me. But they're still playing for $2,000 prize difference, $5,000 for first, $3,000 for second, and the title.
This is a great sequence for Oliver. He can pick up Negate here, and then on his turn play 7th land, Scarab God, holding up Negate to answer either one of Gerry's counterspells or potentially a confiscation coup for after the fact. He's going to be even more patient than that.
Gerry can't wait to get these Thopters on the battlefield and start battling with them because Tomajko's sitting at 20 life. Gerry has yet to put a dent in his life total at all. You see Gerry hesitates a little bit with Whirler Virtuoso, but says, no, it's in. I'm attacking. And this is going to be a Bristling Hydra now from Thompson.
Gerry knows that he can't wait around too much in the face of an Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. Gerry, of course, been on both sides of this matchup. He knows it well. So Oliver, from this board position, wants to exercise patience, but just the right amount of patience. He doesn't want to let his life total get too low and open the door for something crazy to happen. So he wants to, develop his mana and amass as good of a hand as he can without taking too much damage. He does want to make sure he deploys those that Gearhulk and or that Scarab God within the next couple of turns.
Attune with Ether here from Gerry Thompson. Another draw step that he didn't really want to see. It does buy him, though, a Thopter, as he's not 3 energy. So not the worst case scenario, but again, not that, potent big spell that he really wanted.
No.
4 cards left in hand for Thompson, so he still has some action potentially. But the fireworks are going to start for Oliver Tomajko pretty quick here because of cards like Scarab God and Torrential Gearhulk. Looks like he's going to go for the Gearhulk right now, Reed. There it is. Go for maybe a Vraska's Contempt here. No. It's going to get Essence Scattered, and that's going to get negated. And there's another Essence Scatter there for Thompson, so he fights the fight. But all of this could easily be leading the way for you-know-who, Big Daddy Scarab God. And there he is. Oh, hey, look. 4 mana available.
Yeah, Gerry in big trouble here. He has access to 2 Confiscation Coups, which are his good answers to the Scarab God.
He's going to need to find them, and another Attune with Ether there for Thompson.
What he does have is a Glorybringer, and with no flying creatures in the graveyard for Oliver to steal with the Scarab God, Gerry could try to navigate the game in such a way where he just kills in the air over the course of 2 or 3 turns.
It seems to be his only chance, right?
It's really the only thing he can do.
Yeah, unless the top of his deck is very kind to him.
So the most basic, simple level play Gerry could make is Mountain, cast Glorybringer. That's enough mana to play around Supreme Will. Although Oliver potentially does not even have Supreme Will in his deck. So the players having deck lists, Gerry knows that he can safely play the Attune first.
Here we go. What does Tomajko want here?
Oh, wow, look, Gerry didn't even cast
Hydra?
the Glorybringer.
Oh, he didn't even go for it, huh? Tomajko looks like he wanted a copy of Rogue Refiner on his side. That's going to draw him a card. You'll often see the players keep Torrential Gearhulks in the graveyard so that they have the instant speed ability to effectively counter anything. Assuming that they have a counter spell of some sort in the yard, which Oliver certainly does. The creatures are 4/4s anyway, so there's not a big difference there.
Yeah, you make a good point. Because of the Gearhulk, Gerry's surely waiting to double spell, hoping the top of his library delivers Confiscation Coup. Maybe he can bait out a counterspell or the Gearhulk with Glorybringer and then resolve Confiscation Coup. But he's a long way from that happening.
Yeah, big attack there from Oliver Tomajko as Gerry falls down to 10 life. Draws his card for the turn. This could be it. Does he have anything to combat the Scarab God? Once again, you see Gerry taking his time here, mapping out his turn ahead of time.
Deathgorge Scavenger, not a ton of help there.
Can force the issue a little bit with the Scarab God. There's only one Torrential Gearhulk in the yard, right? It's something.
You're right, it is something.
But it's not much.
The problem is Gerry can only cast one more spell with the amount of mana he has access to here. Oliver can just counter both spells and then be very close to killing Gerry on his turn.
Yeah, the downside to forcing Oliver Tomajko to use Torrential Gearhulk is that he's going to use the Torrential Gearhulk. Yeah. And now you have to beat it somehow.
It's going to shorten your life, Gerry.
Indeed. Gerry just de-sleeves the cards that have been brought back with Scarab God for consistency's sake and to know that those ones are 4/4s and zombies.
Gerry has a mountain in hand, but a little strange that he tapped 2 sources of red mana for the Scavenger. I guess he should play Mountain Glorybringer with the plan of exerting on one of those 4/4 zombies.
I think you're right. But Oliver, he has the answer for it. All he has to do is counter here, and he's going to put Gerry so far behind. Here he goes. Oliver Tomajko disallows the Glorybringer.
And now Oliver, in his own upkeep, can animate Gerry's Glorybringer, cause Gerry to lose 3 or 4 life down to, we'll call it 7. Glorybringer can exert to kill a blocker, and Gerry is forced to chump block at least 3 creatures.
This one has completely fallen apart for Gerry Thompson, and Oliver Tomajko is turns away here for being your national champion, the youngest ever in the United States. There it is. Glorybringer coming back.
I think it's over, Marshall.
And look at this. Essence extraction and a full-out attack here from Tomajko. He says, exert this, and that's going to do it. Oliver Tomajko is your U.S. national champion. Congratulations, Oliver. He is the youngest that we've ever had. And Gerry says, good game. Let's get to testing. Remember, these two are going to be teammates with Reed, but of course with each other as well. All right, that is going to do it for the finals here from U.S. Nationals. Oh, hello. Welcome back. So